Honour and Duty review for the PlayStation VR.
Let's begin!
First up, let's take a look at the gameplay. Honour and Duty is a first-person shooting game and has two modes of play. The first mode is single player. When you kill enemies you get money that you can spend on new weapons. These can be purchased at gun crates that are found around the levels. There is quite a bit of variety when it comes to the weapons. You can buy weapons such as machine guns, rifles, a rocket launcher and grenades. Some weapons are only available to a certain class though, and some of the classes are locked at the beginning of the game. As you progress through the game, you get promoted, which eventually unlocks a new class. It is a simple progression system, but it does give you something else to aim towards. There is no story in the single player mode, and there isn't a whole lot of variation in your mission objectives. In the first mission you must advance through a rocky landscape. Enemies keep spawning from certain locations until you kill the required amount. When you do, you simply walk to the next part of the map and do it again. The other missions have you defending a base against waves of enemies. You can buy base upgrades and also train soldiers to fight by your side, such as heavy gunners and medics. Having allies is a great help in the later waves, as quite a lot of enemies spawn and it can be a bit overwhelming, especially as there is no map indicating where they are going to spawn from next. And you also can't hear the enemy's footsteps. It does feel unfair when an enemy takes some health away from your base with an RPG when you didn't have a chance to find them. This cat and mouse game is even more noticeable in the third mission, as the enemies can spawn from every direction. This mission plays out very similar to the second, where you must kill an increasing amount of enemies from wave to wave, and you can also upgrade your armory and spawn allies. The final mission has you defending an airstrip. This map layout is a lot more open, so you really do have to take cover behind objects. There isn't too much enemy variety in these missions. You get normal soldiers, small soldiers, and some have RPGs. The AI certainly isn't the best ever, but they do pop in and out of cover quite well some of the time. The enemies with RPGs don't have a good understanding of the map layout at all. They are usually aiming at one of your base's buildings, and often fire at one when there is something in between them, resulting in them blowing themselves up. The enemy spawn locations are not in the best of places. You can actually see them just appear in the map quite a lot of the time. You can get quite a few easy kills from just camping and waiting for them to spawn, which does take some of the fun and challenge away. Spawn camping is also a problem in the multiplayer. The online mode is team deathmatch. At each team's base is a gun crate that works the same way as the ones found in the single player game. Killing the enemy team gives you money which can be spent on new guns and ammo. It can be slightly annoying having to keep going back to the ammo crate to get more ammo. The maps you fight on really are quite basic and you will be used to their layout very quickly. Overall though, the multiplayer is a bit of mindless fun and it is the best part of the game. Now let's take a look at how immersive this game is. The game is very crisp and sharp, especially on the gun models, but most of the textures are not the best on both the enemies and on the environment. There are some decent textures when you get very close to them, but overall, they're a bit hit or miss. The locations really do lack any character, and the backgrounds really are quite bland. Buildings and objects have been placed only to serve as a bit of cover, and not to make the location itself visually pleasing. Your stats and objectives on screen are easily readable, but they do get in the way slightly. Luckily, you can disable them with a press of a button. As you can't hear the enemy's footsteps, it does make them feel less attached from the world itself, and once again, it does hurt the gameplay. All of the guns do shoot and sound exactly like you would expect. Now let's take a look at the setup and what controllers the game supports. I played this game in a seated position just under 2 meters away from the camera. The head tracking was perfect and the game did not make me motion sick. There is an incredible amount of options to mess around with if you are known to get motion sick. There's angle turning included, and a lot of sliders for things such as turning sensitivity. This game really does get the options right for a VR game, and I wish more VR games had as many things to tinker around with. The game can be played with the DualShock controller or the aim controller. Playing with the aim feels great and you really can aim the gun quite precisely. When playing with the DualShock, the gun is held using the DualShock's motion sensor. It obviously doesn't feel as immersive as using the aim controller, but once again, you can be very precise with your aiming. Now let's take a look at the length of the game and what trophies come with it. The single player game took me around 3.5 hours to beat, but obviously the multiplayer can be played countless times. In total there are 12 trophies that can be achieved. There is 8 bronze, 3 silver and 1 gold. It really is an easy trophy list and does lack any real challenge. A few are related to taking out enemies using different weapons, such as eliminating an enemy with an exploding barrel, or destroying an enemy medical tent with the flamethrower. The most time consuming one is for being promoted to the rank of general. I personally would have liked some that were tied to the online mode, and it is a bit odd that none are awarded for beating the single player missions. And now it's time for the verdict. Although I have mentioned quite a few negative things about the game, I do actually still recommend it. Playing with the aim controller is a lot of fun, and the game does have a lot of content for the price. You're certainly not going to find a single player and multiplayer PSVR game for the asking price. The single player does get incredibly repetitive on the base building missions, and even though you can upgrade your armory and spawn allies, it's not enough to make it exciting or each new wave feel that much different. Thankfully the multiplayer alone does warrant the price. You're not going to find an in-depth competitive online mode here thanks to the spawn camping, but if you go in expecting some mindless fun, you will very likely have a good time, especially when playing with the aim controller. The game does lack polish overall, but the shooting mechanics do work very well, and it's always fun to shoot a gun with the aim controller. As always, if you enjoyed this review, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more PlayStation VR content.